A new lead has surfaced in the Nancy Guthrie case. Hopefully. Just maybe this is what finally takes us to her. I'm not so sure. Dan Bowens, fill us in. What do you know? Could this crack the puzzle wide open? Well, Rosetta Jerry, that's the hope. The tips have been pouring in by the truckload. Tens of thousands, in fact. Yet investigators admit that real solid threads to pull on have been few and far between. Yeah, useful information has been notably absent even after that $1 million reward the family put up a few days ago. But now a video enters the picture. There's a new piece of footage that might shed some light. Take a look. This exclusive video was obtained by Fox Digital. A ring-style security camera located about 2 miles from the Guthrie home in Arizona captured several vehicles passing by during the early morning hours. We're talking about the very same night she vanished. According to analysts, at least 12 cars drove past between midnight and 6 in the morning. It was February 1st. Some were spotted around 2:30 in the morning, right around the time the 84-year-old woman's pacemaker synced for the very last time. For now, the Pima County Sheriff's Department has confirmed that they're aware of the video and are already conducting a thorough analysis of it. What's not entirely clear is whether they already had this footage, or whether they're just stumbling onto it at this very moment. Maybe they'll be able to process the frames, slow them down to pull details on those cars as they roll through the darkness. Will this lead anywhere? Time will tell. With zero physical evidence at the scene, experts argue that the key now lies in the digital footprint, things like cell phones. There's something about this case that goes beyond strange. It's deeply unsettling. An 84-year-old woman vanishes in the dead of night. No screams. No witnesses. Not a single clear suspect. Just a deafening silence. But as so often happens with the mysteries of our era, that silence didn't last long. Out of nowhere, a real bombshell drops. A veteran journalist comes forward and claims that a police source confided something shocking to her. The prime suspect could be the victim's own son-in-law. He was the last person to see her alive. Are you formally investigating the son-in-law at this stage of the case? There were rumors a few days ago, and you flatly denied them. You said you haven't ruled absolutely anyone out yet. Have you cleared him yet? Or are you at least getting close? Or is he still actively under your microscope? We're investigating every single person who crosses paths in this puzzle. Every one of them. It would be negligent on our part not to talk to everyone involved. From the Uber driver to the gardener to the pool guy. Whoever it is. Everyone counts equally. It sounds like a cliché, but for us, everybody's a suspect until proven otherwise. That's just how our police mindset works. Does that mean we have a prime suspect? No. In fact, the family has cooperated with us every step of the way. They've complied with every request we've made of them, and we want to keep that good working relationship going forward. Sometimes folks out there can be cruel, and that negativity ends up getting in the way of our actual efforts to find her. That's right, you heard correctly. Nancy Guthrie, the missing woman and the man whose name is now echoing across podcasts, newsrooms, and internet forums. Her son-in-law, Tommaso Canan. And the person who lit the fuse on this explosive accusation, seasoned journalist Ashley Banfield. On the third day, a high-level source assured me that the car belonging to the victim's sister and brother-in-law had been towed away. According to what I was told, the Nest cameras had been smashed, the back door was left wide open, and there were traces of blood. Clear signs of forced entry. And that the brother-in-law might be the prime suspect. Mind you, that was barely on day 3 of the initial investigation. So why did the focus zero in so specifically on him as early as the 3rd day? You'll hear a fascinating breakdown of how these criminal investigations have their own ebbs and flows. We'll see how that's totally plausible and how everything can flip 180 degrees depending on which way the evidence blows. However, certain key events from those first 2 days could have triggered what experts call confirmation bias. We're going to dive deeper into that concept and what it means just a minute from now. And then there's the DNA. Everyone is on the edge of their seats waiting for the results from that glove found 2 miles away. The glove that looks so much like the one in the Ring camera. Will there be a match? Will it line up with DNA found in the house? Will it open any new doors? Or will it just be a piece of lost and found junk? We'll break down why the lab is taking so long and whether that delay is in fact a bad sign. But this is where the story stops, being merely unsettling, and turns truly bizarre. Because the sheriff in charge of overseeing all of this, Sheriff Nanos, holds a version of events that doesn't square at all with what came before. No suspects. No persons of interest. The case remains open, and now the internet is screaming a single question louder than ever. If there's nothing fishy going on, why is everyone pointing at the same man? Why did police seize a vehicle linked to the family? And why on earth were the security cameras inside the home destroyed that very night? Maybe the biggest unknown of all is this. Why has the last person who saw Nancy alive not said a single public word since then? Because in mysteries of this magnitude, silence is never just silence. Sometimes it's the loudest trail of all. The big problem with mysteries of this caliber is that the moment one strange detail surfaces, 10 more pop up right behind it to muddy everything. And in Nancy Guthrie's case, the timeline of her disappearance reads like something out of a midnight thriller, the kind that leaves you cold. Let's start with the concrete stuff, with what the police actually have in their hands. That night, Nancy got home around 9:48. The one who dropped her off at the door was her son-in-law, Tommaso Cayenne. According to the family, everything went totally normally. No arguments, no weird vibes, just a routine ride home. Or at least that's the official version of events. The thing is, just a few hours later, the calm in that residence was shattered in a deeply sinister way. The security cameras that had been installed precisely to keep Nancy safe suddenly stopped recording entirely. It wasn't a power outage. The recording software didn't fail either. Sometime later, investigators dropped the bombshell. Several of the cameras had been physically destroyed. Think about that for a second. Whoever entered that property didn't do it blindly, because they seemed to know exactly where every single lens was located. They knew how to blind them in the blink of an eye, a detail that forced agents to ask themselves a pretty bitter question. Was this the work of a random intruder or someone who already knew every corner of that house perfectly? Normally, a stranger moving through somebody else's house in the middle of the night is a chaos of noise, stumbles, and panic. But according to sources close to the case, the individual who was inside there moved with a confidence that gives you chills. In fact, it's believed the suspect spent more than 40 minutes wandering through the inside of the home. 40 minutes. That's not a quick in-and-out burglary. That's not someone in a rush to get away. This is someone who felt strangely at ease, and the mystery thickens when technology comes into play. Nancy used a pacemaker that synced with her phone, and the data shows the last successful connection was at 2:30 in the morning. After that, nothing. The signal went dead for good. Detectives believe the tragedy happened right in that window, between when the cameras went out and the pacemaker stopped transmitting information. This is where the investigation turns into a battlefield of opinions, following a report from veteran journalist Ashley Banfield. She claimed on her show that a high-level source tipped her off that detectives had been looking at Nancy's son-in-law as a key piece. During those early hours of the case, they would have had him in their sights as suspect number one. We're not talking about internet gossip or social media theories. This was a supposed leak from deep inside law enforcement. According to the report, the police didn't waste any time and took some pretty drastic measures from the very start of the search. It was reported that a vehicle linked to the family was towed and meticulously analyzed in search of any trace of evidence. Forensic experts also examined the remains of the cameras, and that back door, someone found wide open the next morning. For a moment, it looked like the noose was tightening around the inner circle of the people who had seen Nancy that night. But that narrative slammed head-on into the official response, almost the instant it went public. Sheriff Nanos came out swinging hard, trying to shut down any speculation during a press conference. He insisted there were no official suspects, and that the family had been cooperating with the authorities every step of the way. Even so, the atmosphere got muddier when, after denying the existence of a prime suspect, the sheriff dropped another sentence. A statement that left everyone scratching their heads. He admitted that, in reality, nobody had been ruled out of the investigation just yet. Everyone was still under the microscope: friends, neighbors, employees, and of course the family members too. It's been 24 days since they took our mother right out of her own bed in the middle of pitch-black darkness. Every hour, every minute, every second has been constant torture, an agony of not knowing where she is or what happened to her. Our bodies ache from missing her so much, but we know that millions of people are sending their prayers right now. People of all faiths, and even those who don't believe in anything, are asking for her to come home. We feel that support deep in our souls. Please don't stop praying. We're not losing faith, and we keep hoping for a miracle to happen. We still believe she can walk through that door. As my sister says, we're trying to keep the last ember of hope burning. Although we're also aware that maybe she's not with us anymore, that maybe she's already gone to be with the Lord she loved so dearly. Maybe she's already dancing up there with her parents, with her brother Pierce, and with our dad. If that's the fate we have to face, we'll have to learn to accept it through the pain. But the uncertainty is killing us. We need to know where she is. We just want our mother to come home. That's why the family has decided to offer a reward of up to $1 million to anyone who provides information that helps us find her. All the information about this money and the details are in the description below. You can call the tip line at 1-800. You don't have to give your name if you don't want to. Someone out there knows something that can bring her back. Someone knows. And we beg you with all our hearts, please speak up. Now, we're also aware that we're not the only ones carrying this kind of emptiness. We know there are millions of families who have suffered with this same gut-wrenching uncertainty. For that reason, today, we're also going to donate $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children in recognition of their work, helping families going through this kind of grief and tirelessly searching for those who never came back. For the investigators, this might just be standard protocol. But for the public watching the case unfold in real time, it sounded like something very different. It sounded like a door that refused to close. And right when the details about the night Nancy vanished started leaking out, the internet did what it does best. It started firing off questions, hundreds of them. Why were the cameras smashed? What was the back door doing wide open? Why did the pacemaker signal cut off so abruptly? And, while the rest of the family was screaming for help, why wasn't the last person to see Nancy alive saying a single word? No interviews, no statements, not even a sad message. Total silence. Now, staying quiet doesn't prove anything on its own. Any criminal defense attorney on the planet would tell you exactly the same thing. If you're in the eye of an investigation of this caliber, the smartest move is usually to keep your mouth shut and say absolutely nothing. But in a mystery this thick, that void of words ends up becoming the headline of the whole story. The days went by, and the doubts surrounding Nancy's absence only kept getting louder. By the time the second week rolled around, something unexpected happened. The Nancy Guthrie enigma was no longer just a missing person search. It was turning into an out-of-control media storm. All it took was for someone to mention the words prime suspect, for even though the police weren't confirming anything, the idea to spread like wildfire across the web. Suddenly, everyone was asking the same question. What did the agents see in those first hours that put Nancy's inner circle so directly under the microscope? Possibly the answer is hidden in the very first moments of the whole operation. According to several reports, the detectives didn't show up at the house thinking it was just somebody who had wandered off. They treated it from minute one as something far more serious, a possible crime scene. They went over every corner of the inside with surgical precision, documenting everything from the destroyed security cameras to that back door someone discovered open later that morning. Reportedly, even the most insignificant detail was cataloged. But the real fuel for the theories arrived when police seized a family vehicle to analyze it thoroughly. For homicide detectives, this was pure routine, just one more piece of the puzzle. But for the public watching from the sidelines, the optics were different. That whole thing reeked of pure, hard suspicion. And the wave of rumors didn't stop there. True crime forums and communities started picking apart every move Tommaso Cayenne had made. The man who had taken Nancy home just hours before she vanished. Some became obsessed with the timeline, while others couldn't get past the fact that he was the last confirmed person to see her alive. And yet what bothered people most was something disturbingly simple, his deafening silence. While the rest of the family recorded desperate videos and appealed to the audience's emotions in hopes of finding leads, Tommaso stayed completely off the radar. Not a single chat with the press, not one statement, not a public plea. In a 24-hour news world, that's lethal. That kind of silence, fueled by speculation on social media, quickly takes on a life of its own. But not everyone bought into the internet theories. In fact, several legal experts pointed out a fundamental point. If you're close to an active investigation, especially one that has the entire country's attention, the best legal advice is also the most basic. Don't say a single word, no matter how innocent you are, because any sentence can be twisted or used against you in ways nobody sees coming. For that very reason, investigators have also been weighing their words with extreme caution. When the press asked Sheriff Nanos directly whether Tommaso was a suspect, the sheriff didn't throw out any accusation. But he didn't come to his defense either. He went with that ambiguous answer agents tend to fall back on when a case is still in its infancy. "We're looking at everyone," he said. friends, neighbors, anyone who had crossed paths with Nancy. Because when an 84-year-old woman vanishes without a trace in the middle of the night, detectives can't afford to assume anything. But then 10 days after insisting nobody was off the table, something happened that left everyone trying to follow the case completely puzzled. The sheriff's office had just issued a brand new statement. This time, however, the tone felt radically different. The entire Guthrie family, every sibling, every spouse, was officially cleared of any suspicion. They were no longer in the crosshairs. Just like that, in less than 14 days, the focus did a complete 180. They went from monitoring every move the relatives made to ruling them out entirely. But that announcement left a question hanging in the air that to this very day still haunts investigators. What exactly changed in those 10 days? Just when it seemed the Nancy Guthrie mystery couldn't get any murkier, a new and unexpected twist emerged. While the debate over possible culprits raged on social media, detectives turned their eyes onto something far more solid: DNA. No gossip, no empty theories. I'm talking pure, hard forensic evidence. During the sweep of Nance's neighborhood, agents recovered an item that immediately set off every alarm bell. A glove found about 2 miles from her house. At first glance, anyone would have said it was just another piece of trash on the side of the road. However, when the find was cross-checked against footage from nearby security cameras, something out of the ordinary jumped out. The accessory was nearly identical to the one worn by a masked individual caught walking through the area that very same early morning. Suddenly, the case took an unprecedented turn. The glove was immediately sent to a private forensic lab in Florida to be analyzed. The investigators' hope was clear: that the fabric would finally reveal the identity of whoever had stalked Nance's house during those critical hours. But when the first results came back, they brought with them a suffocating mix of answers and brand new questions. The genetic trace on the glove didn't match anyone in the Guthrie family. Not Tommaso Cain, nor any of the relatives who had been previously questioned. Instead, the lab detected 2 completely unknown male DNA profiles. 2 men who had never been linked to the family circle. 2 people whose identities don't appear in any law enforcement database. For many, this was the definitive proof that the family had nothing to do with it. If that glove belonged to someone involved in Nance's disappearance, then we're talking about someone totally outside her closest circle. Even so, that theory opens up cracks. How could a stranger know with such precision exactly where the home's security cameras were hidden? How could they move through the hallways with such confidence? And even more disturbing, how did they know she would be completely alone that night? Investigators are quietly weighing another possibility: prior surveillance. Sources close to the case admit someone could have been casing the property weeks before the incident. Maybe they studied the layout and memorized every corner. There's suspicion that the individual spotted in January wasn't just passing through, but doing reconnaissance. Former investigators agree on one thing: this kind of behavior suggests organized crime, something meticulously planned and executed in cold blood. It wasn't random. This hypothesis takes us back to square one, forcing us to look again at the strange events that unfolded inside those 4 walls. The smashed cameras, the back door wide open, and those 40 endless minutes during which someone wandered through the home. Meanwhile, the wheels of justice keep turning. Thousands of tips have poured in from every corner of the country in search of an answer. The detectives have exhausted thousands of investigative threads, chasing down any signal, no matter how small, that might lead them to Nance's whereabouts. Yet after weeks of relentless work, the case remains stuck at a dead end that's painful for everyone. There are no firm suspects, no arrests. There isn't even a logical explanation for what happened in the darkness of that night. Maybe the most heartbreaking part of all this is accepting that time is no longer on Nance's side. It's running out. At 84 years old, her life depended on daily medications and constant medical supervision that is now nowhere to be found. According to experts, surviving this long without that basic care is an almost impossible scenario. The outlook is frankly grim. This tells us that somewhere out there the truth is still hidden. Someone saw something. Someone at this very moment knows exactly what happened. And until that missing piece of the puzzle comes to light, the Nancy Guthrie case will remain what it is right now: a riddle full of questions and orphaned of answers. The Nancy Guthrie story is no longer just a missing persons report, it's something much deeper. It has become a labyrinth of contradictions and doubts, with a timeline that no matter how much you analyze it simply doesn't add up. Let's break down the facts. An elderly woman vanishes in the middle of the night. The security cameras in her own home end up smashed to pieces. Miles away, a lone glove turns up containing the DNA of two men nobody can identify. Then there's that journalist who claims Tommaso Cayenne, the last person to see her alive, was the prime suspect from day one. But then the sheriff Chris Nanos shows up and tells a totally different story than the one everyone was expecting to hear. No culprits in sight, the family cleared of any charges, and the case still open. So what's the truth behind all of this? Did the early steps of the investigation go in the wrong direction until this new evidence flipped everything on its head? Or is there still a crucial part of this story being kept hidden from the public eye? Because the reality is just one mysteries like this one rarely stay buried forever. Sooner or later, somebody slips up. There's always somebody who ends up talking. Always. Somebody knows the truth. There's always a silent witness who keeps far more to themselves than they ever dare to say. Out there in some forgotten corner, a tiny detail is still alive. A vague memory, a strange silhouette, or one simple fact that could once and for all explain Nancy's fate that night. But now the weight of doubt falls on you. After walking through this dark labyrinth, what do you think really happened? Did the investigators move too quickly in clearing the family's name? Or is the culprit a phantom, someone completely outside the circle who designed this horror with absolute precision? Drop your theory in the comments. The atmosphere around this case keeps getting denser, and the hypotheses much more unsettling. If you're passionate about deep psychological breakdowns and crime stories that defy all logic, stories where the official truth barely scratches the surface of what really happened, show the video some love with a like. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss out when the next investigation comes to light. Because the biggest stories, the ones that weigh the most, tend to be precisely the ones that time refuses to solve.